Well, effective immediately, Illinois' firearm industry can be held liable for allegedly contributing to unsafe conditions, advertising to children, and for paramilitary activity. This after Governor J.B. Pritzker on Saturday signed the measure that allows for this type of legal action. It's House Bill 218, effective immediately, and you've got gun control advocates saying that no industry should be held above the law or given a free pass to engage in such dangerous and irresponsible conduct, especially an industry linked to the deaths of 1,600 people in Illinois every year. That's according to Brady President Chris Brown, and they're referring to the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, PLACA, as it's described. And that's a federal statute that essentially says that you cannot go after an industry for their lawful conduct. But how this measure rubs up against that, I guess, is something that we'll have to wait for the courts to ultimately, plow through and determine. But let's go ahead and hear what Governor J.B. Pritzker, Attorney General Kwame Raoul, and Jennifer Gahn Gershowitz, one of the sponsors of this bill, had to say on Saturday at a gun control event. And it was called Gun Sense University. And it was organized by Moms Demand Action, Students Demand Action, and a bunch of other gun control advocates. But here is how that played out Saturday up in Chicago.
Under the leadership of Attorney General Kwame Raoul, the state of Illinois will now be allowed to take legal action against firearm industry players that endanger the public safety and health of our people. You know, we hold opioid manufacturers accountable. We hold vaping companies accountable. We hold predatory lenders accountable. Gun manufacturers shouldn't get to hide from the law, and now they won't be able to.
Now, I want to make sure, because, we've got folks in court cases who tend to use what I say. It is important to know that this law in no way targets those in the firearm industry who operate in a lawful manner. What this law does is clarify that the firearm industry, like any other business, must comply with the Consumer Fraud and Deceptive Practices Act. The legislation establishes that the firearm industry members who knowingly violate the law and endanger the public when selling firearms, for example, by not taking already required steps to prevent sales to straw purchasers, are liable for those irresponsible practices. It prohibits marketing that reasonably appears to support unlawful paramilitary and unlawful private militia. And it reminds gun industry members that you cannot market to our kids.
We do not tolerate automobile manufacturers touting the effectiveness of its latest model to mow down a crowd of people. We do not tolerate a steak knife manufacturer that advertises the cutting effectiveness of its blade for attacking people. Yet gun manufacturers use messages like "Forces of opposition bow down," or "Consider your man card reissued," or "Use what they use," to appeal to those seeking tactical combat weapons used by the military. Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
So again, the governor signing this legislation effective immediately. Coming back, we'll hear from Todd Van Der Meer, gun rights advocates, and also we'll touch back on what we heard from Robert Beavis, owner of Law Weapons, essentially saying that gun manufacturers shouldn't be held liable for people using these tools in nefarious ways. So stay tuned. We'll get that next here with Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and... So we heard the governor and the attorney general and state representative Jennifer Gahn Gershowitz talk about the measure that allows for lawsuits against the gun industry in Illinois for advertising to kids or advertising for paramilitary purposes, but also for advertising, or making a less safe public space, whatever that may mean. So, we talked with Robert Beavis from Law Weapons last week, previewing the expectation the governor was going to sign this law. And here's what Robert Beavis had to say when we chatted with him in particular about House Bill 218, expected to be signed, which was signed on Saturday.
Look, automobile manufacturers are not responsible for people that drive drunk and crash their cars. You know, we can't be held responsible for the way somebody uses a firearm if it's in a nefarious way. As far as the advertising, I think that is a big stretch. I haven't seen any advertising where they're advertising to young kids or to people to use it in a paramilitary way. You know, the firearms, standard marketing. I mean, look, I see marketing on marijuana stores. You know, their signage and some of the literature that I've seen out there is, you know, that's a federal issue right there. It's a federal regulated drug, a narcotic, but there's nothing being done about that or alcohol or anything else. So I don't think that this is going to go very far, but if he signs it, we'll challenge it as well. So
obviously expecting to see some kind of litigation on that now that it is signed and law effective immediately, making gun industry players vulnerable to lawsuits. We talked with Todd Van Der Meer over the weekend as well about this, and he reacted to this because he was one of the people who testified against this measure.
Well, you speak of our gun club, your Aurora Sportsman's Club has their zombie shoot coming up September 12th. And it's a family event. We have a lot of, minors that show up to that event with their families and do shooting. And, you can find us online. And the question is, does that marketing somehow bring our gun club into being sued just because? Well, the law says that if you make a firearm more lethal, you can be sued. So it sounds like they're intent on driving Olin ammunition plant out of Illinois because hollow points make guns more lethal. They say, they've got this loose definition of paramilitary training. What is that? I mean, they don't really define it. So there you've got the right to assemble. You've got our free speech rights. You've got, our Second Amendment rights. So it's clear that the Attorney General, the anti-gunners, and Governor Pritzker think that, the Bill of Rights is a piece of toilet paper for them to just wipe their feet on.
So obviously a lot of concern about this, and the question again is, does this violate PLACA, which is the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act? And this law in Illinois mirrors one signed by California Governor Gavin Newsom in 2022, and the National Shooting Sports Foundation challenged the law in May of this year, asking the judge to stop it from taking effect while it's litigated, and attorneys for Attorney General Rob Bonta in California and the NSSF on Friday, they agreed on a September 11th deadline for the state to respond to that injunction request. And earlier this month, a federal judge put an injunction on Illinois' law that deals with free speech issues as well concerning pregnancy centers. So the issue of free speech and the firearms industry, something else that's going to be definitely litigated, and we'll be tracking all of that with here as we do every morning with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. Follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air, and we can connect that way, all right? So make it happen. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, just search Bishop on Air.